This will be the first in a series of lens reviews I'm planning on doing, geared specifically towards video use rather than photography use. Okay, the first lens that I have is my Nikon 24mm f2.8 AI lens from the 1970s. I think this is the softest lens I have. It's not terribly sharp as a photo lens, but really for video it's not too much of a problem since you only have about 1080p anyway. Like with all of the AI and AIS lenses from the 70s, the aperture ring is physical on the lens, and this one goes up to f2.8. The focus ring has a guide to show you about how much you'll get in sharp depth of field at each aperture. The focus ring is nice and smooth, has a hard stop of infinity and goes down to 30 centimeters. It has about 170 degrees of travel, so plenty for video use. Since this is an older lens, I normally use a UV filter with it to make sure I get all of the extra glare out that you would get from not having the coatings that modern lenses do. Even with that on though, this lens does tend to get a bit of glare, which depending on what you're using it for, you may dislike or you may like, because it does add kind of an interesting effect to what you're filming. The other thing about this lens is that it has pretty awesome lens flares. They're very nicely colored, round, lots of interesting shapes in it. Sort of a very classic lens flare. As you can see by looking through the lens here, it has 7 aperture blades and they're all straight cut, not curved, which will affect the shape of your bokeh when you're filming. Just keep that in mind, you will end up with septagonal shaped bokeh, unless the lens is fully open where it's pretty much circular. 24mm is a great focal length for sort of general purpose filming. I use it on an APS-C sensor, and so for that purpose, it's a focal length that'll rarely feel claustrophobic, but won't really give you that sense of extreme wideness either. I did some interviews recently and I found it was a good range to do that in. You could stand about 1.5 meters away and get them in a medium close-up. It's the APS-C equivalent of 35mm on full frame. It's sort of a very relaxed range, I suppose you'd call it. Not too close, not too wide, just sort of in between. You won't get too much cut off if you're filming in a tight room, but you'll still be able to get your close-ups of your actors. I'd say if you just wanted to get one single prime for video and no other lenses, then this would probably be the one to do it if you're using an APS-C sensor. This lens goes for about $200 or so on eBay. If you're lucky, you can find it even cheaper. It doesn't have autofocus like all AI lenses, but it is very similar. I think it's even the same design on the inside as the 24mm f2.8D lens, although that lens is plastic, not metal, and has a much smaller focus ring, which is probably less convenient for video. There are other lenses in this range which I haven't checked out, so you probably want to do a bit of research before getting something like this, but I remember from my searching that this seemed to be the best quality option for the price range which I was looking for. I am a Nikon shooter at the moment, so bear that in mind. There may be other options that aren't available for Nikon. Also, if you are a Canon shooter, there are adapters which you can use to allow you to put Nikon lenses on your camera. And if you're shooting in Micro Four Thirds or on the Blackmagic Cinema camera, then the Metabone Speed Booster adapters can be used to pretty much make it as if you're using it on a regular APS-C camera. I hope you enjoyed this review. More coming in the future.